Do your artworks or manga panels look like this? All characters and no backgrounds? If your answer is yes, then this video is for you. You're not the only one struggling with backgrounds. A lot of beginner mangakas always get stuck when it comes to drawing them. They're either too difficult or artists just can't be bothered to draw them. Why? Because drawing characters is just way more fun, and backgrounds are always just left out as an afterthought. But if you want to create your own manga, then you gotta learn how to actually draw backgrounds. You can't underestimate them. Backgrounds can make or break your scenes. They're vital to your story. So, if you want to get serious about making your manga and leveling up from this to this, then make sure to keep watching until the very end. Because in this video, we're going to talk about how you can start making awesome backgrounds for your manga as a total beginner. Before we continue, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notifications so you get updated on our latest manga tips and tutorials. If you're a beginner mangaka aspiring to create your first manga and you want to learn the steps, the techniques, the skills to create a manga that you can share with others and feel proud of, then we invite you to sign up to the waitlist for our online one-shot manga drawing program. You'll get to work with pro-Japanese mangakas who have over 50 years of combined experience in the industry. Plus, you'll be in a supportive community learning with fellow aspiring mangakas who are just as awesome and passionate as you are. You can click the link in the description to sign up to our waitlist. A lot of artists seem to hate drawing backgrounds.
They're just backgrounds, nothing more.
And sure, that may be true when you're drawing character designs or portraits. But when you're making a manga, remember, you're trying to tell a story. Think of your backgrounds as part of your story, just like how your characters are. Just look at these pages from Attack on Titan's Battle of Shiganshina arc. In these chapters, the background of Shiganshina district is not the main focus. But take away that background and the scenes would look flat, and they would lose a lot of context. Where are the characters? What sort of environment are they interacting with? Why are they there? You can't answer any of these questions without the location, the background. At this point, you're basically telling just half a story. In other cases, backgrounds can also become the main focus. In these scenes, it's the wall. Here, the walls sort of become a character of the story. They're a symbol of oppression, a constant reminder that our heroes are trapped, forced to hide from the titans and the enemies behind the wall. So while backgrounds may not always be the focal point of a scene, they add a whole new layer of depth to your manga, enhancing the mood, the theme, the story of your scenes. When done right, they can be the ultimate supporting device you can use to tell a great story.
But I'm no pro mangaka. How can I start drawing amazing backgrounds like they do?
Well, first, you'll need to learn how to draw in perspective. Have you ever drawn something and thought that it looked a little bit wonky? Take this chair, for example. It looks a bit weird, right? The front legs look too extended and slanted. What about this bedroom? Looks a bit off, a bit distorted. What's wrong with these drawings? What's making them look so weird? The lines, specifically their size and position. They don't follow the rules of perspective. But what does that even mean? Let me explain. Look at these two drawings. They're showing the same thing, but which one do you think looks better? A or B? It's image B, right? A looks super flat. It doesn't give a clear sense of space or depth. It doesn't give us a distinction between the different objects in the illustration. All these different elements just look like one single object. When you look at B, it looks more realistic. You get a sense of depth and space. B is an example of good perspective drawing. Perspective gives 2D, flat-looking drawings a realistic 3D appearance. Now, let's break down exactly how you can achieve this 3D illusion. Perspective drawings are made up of two elements, a horizon line and at least one vanishing point. The horizon line is a horizontal line that represents the viewer's eye level. Imagine looking straight into a field. The horizon line is where the sky seems to meet the ground far off in the distance. The vanishing point is a point on the horizon line where everything in our drawing seems to vanish into the distance. You'll notice that elements like buildings, objects, or even people seem to look smaller and smaller the closer they are to the vanishing point. To be able to draw all the elements out consistently and realistically, you'll want some guidelines. You can draw parallel lines that meet at the vanishing point. You can use these lines as a guide to draw how tall or short your buildings or even characters need to be. For most drawings, the horizon line is typically located in the middle of the page, but this could be positioned anywhere depending on the angle of your scene. If the viewer was looking straight ahead, the horizon line would be in the middle of the page. If it's a low angle view, the horizon line will be near the bottom of the page. If it's a bird's eye view, the horizon line will be at the top or way above the page completely. Alright, now let's practice what we've just learned. We'll show you a few backgrounds and you'll have to identify the placement of the horizon line. Here's a picture of a bookstore. Where's the horizon line? We'll give you a moment to try and figure it out. You can even pause this video to give it more thought. Are you ready with your answer? The horizon line is right in the middle of the frame. Were you able to get it? Alright, let's move on to the next background. What about this room? Where is the horizon line? Are you ready with your answer? The horizon line is near the bottom of the frame. Alright, now time for the last image. What about this street crossing? Where is the horizon line? Ready? The horizon line is above the frame. Did you get it right? Let us know how you did in this activity down in the comments. Did you get 3 out of 3, 2 out of 3, 1 out of 3? Even if you didn't get anything correctly, don't worry. You can just keep practicing. Now that you know the basics of perspective drawing, let's get into some of the easiest and most common perspective drawing techniques that mangakas use, the 1-point and 2-point perspective. Imagine you're looking at a road that goes straight into the distance. Have you ever noticed how the road seems to get smaller and smaller until it looks like it's meeting at just 1 point far away? That's kind of like what 1-point perspective is. There's one vanishing point. In 1-point perspective, we imagine that everything in our drawing is going towards that 1 point in the distance. So if we're drawing a road, the sides of the road and all the things on it like trees or buildings would seem to get smaller as they go towards that point. It's like looking down a hallway or a tunnel. All the lines that go straight ahead seem to meet at that 1 point. In 1-point perspective, the vanishing point is typically located somewhere around the center of the horizon line, whereas in some cases, the vanishing point can also be slightly off-center. If you're still confused, here's a tip for you to easily identify 1-point perspectives. Just follow the lines that show the edges of things, like buildings or roads, and see if they all lead to 1 point. If they do, then it's in 1-point perspective. Pretty neat, right? Overall, this is the easiest technique to draw simple scenes that look more realistic and 3D. When you're drawing in a 2-point perspective, it's all about corners. You can be looking at a corner of a street or the corner of a room or a corner of a building. In a 2-point perspective drawing, there's 2 vanishing points on the left and right of the horizon line. These 2 vanishing points represent 2 different views, and corners are where the 2 different views collide and meet. If the 2 vanishing points are further away from each other, your drawing could lose depth. If the 2 vanishing points are too close, the scene may end up looking too exaggerated. There's also a 3-point perspective where, you guessed it, you use 3 vanishing points. This becomes quite complicated because all these vanishing points create a very extreme illusion of depth and perspective. Your scenes will come out more warped and exaggerated. Here's a more advanced example of how pro mangakas like Tatsuki Fujimoto and Ryoko Kui play around with perspective. If you want your scene to look even crazier, you could actually work with 4 or 5-point perspectives, but they're actually very rarely used. If you're a beginner, we definitely recommend you stick to mastering the easier stuff first. Don't jump into the more complicated stuff that you're not ready for yet. Your next step is to practice your 1-point and 2-point perspective. A great exercise to start with is by drawing basic shapes. When you look at backgrounds or scenes from manga or reference photos, a lot of these backgrounds are actually made up of basic shapes, like boxes or cubes for buildings, houses, buses, or benches. You can use cylinders for trees or poles, pyramids for roofs or mountains. Before you get into drawing detailed backgrounds, you really gotta start with the basics. Now, take out your pencil and let's start with drawing boxes. Pro tip, if you're drawing freehand on paper, make sure to use a ruler to be more precise. It might take a bit of extra time, but it's gonna be worth it. Alright, step 1. Draw a horizon line in the middle of your page. Place your vanishing point at the center of the horizon line. Next, draw the converging guidelines. These lines will determine the height and angles of the buildings or objects in your scene. Finally, draw 9 boxes at different positions on the page. Make sure to switch up the heights and sizes of each box. And remember, the sides of your boxes should all lead back towards the vanishing point. After you're done with this, try doing the same exercise with 2 vanishing points. First, draw a horizon line in the middle of your page. Next, place your 2 vanishing points on the right and left of the horizon line. Next, draw the converging guidelines. Finally, draw 9 boxes at different positions. When you draw your boxes, start with a single vertical line. This is your corner. When you're drawing the sides of your box, remember, the left side of the box will lead back to the left vanishing point, and the right side of the box will lead back to the right vanishing point. While you're practicing, just remember that your lines don't have to be perfectly precise. As in, they don't have to perfectly line up with the guidelines. That's why they're called guidelines, not perfect lines. Your lines just have to be close enough while still following the rules of perspective. When you do this with your drawings, they won't only look good, but it'll also feel more organic and natural for you. As a reminder, don't expect perfection, especially when you're a beginner. We know that even drawing just basic shapes can actually be a bit overwhelming. Don't worry, it's very natural to feel this way if you've never tried perspective drawing before. Our student Raven actually felt the same. She had never drawn backgrounds before. She never bothered with drawing in perspective. And she was drawing traditionally, with no digital tools or grids to help her draw straight lines every time. So she struggled a lot. But with practice, she got better and better and was able to get a grasp on the basics. Once you master drawing shapes like boxes, pyramids, or cylinders in perspective, you can move on to drawing more complex shapes like everyday objects or buildings and eventually full-on backgrounds and scenes. After you've mastered drawing basic shapes, you can try studying and copying your favorite scenes. Our pro-Japanese mangaka mentor, Ren Asaya, recommends gathering reference photos of backgrounds or scenes that you feel excited to draw. It can be a city you want to visit, your favorite scene from a manga or anime, or someone else's artwork that you admire. Then, try to copy these images and roughly draw them out yourself. No need to get into detail. Just focus on getting the perspective right. You can do this by tracing over any lines you find and seeing where they all lead. This is a great way for you to figure out how perspective works and help you understand how your favorite mangakas use perspective in their backgrounds. Overall, it takes time to learn how to properly draw backgrounds. But it's worth the effort, especially if it helps take your manga and visual storytelling to the next level. If you want to get more help and guidance, learning how to draw backgrounds, how to make a storyboard, how to create your whole manga in general, then make sure to sign up to the waitlist of our online one-shot manga drawing program. We'll see you when enrollments open again. In the meantime, you can check out this video on other skills you need to develop a kick-ass manga.